watch yourself, watch yourself, watch yourself, watch yourself, watch yourself, watch yourself, watch yourself.
Okay. McDonald's, this is terrible news. McDonald's and Krispy Kreme are ending their partnership. The customers are crushed, but not as much as their chairs are. Hi, everybody. I'm Kenny Webster. It is, what is it? It's Thursday, and we are live in studio. Corey, I've had you on this radio show dozens of times. You've never been here in person before. For those who don't know who Corey DeAngelis is, he is probably the leading school choice advocate in the country. An activist, an ally of Governor Abbott. You are responsible for doing the advocacy work to legalize, to pass school choice in multiple states, not only here in the Texas Lone Star State, but Florida, Arizona, among other places. What am I leaving out?
New Hampshire was the most recent. They just became the 17th state, right after Texas, to go all in on school choice. We've had 17 now in the past 4 years. We're winning so much, I'm almost getting tired of winning. Almost. We're not done yet. We have to get to those blue state havens that are controlled by the teachers' unions like California and New York. They're holdouts. Texas was a holdout for a long time because we had too many rhinos in the House that were siding with all the Democrats like Gene Wu, who infamously said at a public school setting earlier this year that rich people do not want to send their kids to the public schools. They send them to private because they want their kids to stay away from your kids. We found out a little later that I revealed on X that he sent his own kids to private school. He went to private school choice for me, but not for thee. He basically let the mask slip. I think he was telling on himself.
Almost every lawmaker that opposes you or opposes the school choice movement sends their kids to private school.
Yep.
I will say this about New Hampshire and Rhode Island. You're in Houston, Texas right now.
Yep.
Isn't it kind of crazy that they get a senator and we don't? I mean, maybe it's better that way. If we had a senator, it probably wouldn't be a good one.
Yeah, probably not. But look, even New Hampshire, a state that went to Kamala Harris somehow in the presidential election, even though they elected a Republican governor by 9 points, Kelly, they have school choice. And, Texas, I can't believe it took this long, but families got to see what was happening in the classroom during COVID, and that turned it into a GOP litmus test issue like we've never seen before. And after those 21 Republicans voted against their own party platform issue in Texas in 2023, in the primaries, 2/3 of them got taken out. 14 of them are now gone. And what's really interesting to me is that 7 of them remained, but 6 of those guys ended up voting for school choice this time. These guys who doubled down and said, I'm never supporting education freedom. They said that they were, quote unquote, philosophically opposed. Just goes to show you that the political winds have shifted in favor of parents who are making their voices heard at the ballot box.
Isn't it interesting how policy positions will change, not based on ideology, but tribalism, right? 15 years ago, the school choice movement got a lot of attention because of black Democrats.
Yep.
All over. Sheila Jackson Lee,
Yep.
rest in peace. One of my favorite people. She's been great for this radio show. Sylvester Turner, another one. Rest in peace. So many great sound bites because of him. But these are people that love school choice.
Yeah.
Black Democrats thought it was a great idea. The thought of telling some black kid, you should be able to go to whatever public school you want. There's a wealthy public school right over there. There's a private school right over there. And you can't go there because of this invisible line created by government officials. The only people that have been consistent on this are lowercase l libertarians.
That's right. And it really shouldn't be a partisan issue. If you look at voters, I mean, University of Houston polling, look no further than there. They found that one of the highest groups of support was among black Democrats, and the only group that did not have a majority of support on their poll when you broke it down by the demographics happened to be white Democrats. So Republicans, independents, Black Democrats, Hispanic Democrats support school choice with majority margins. And, so like if you look in Florida, for example, they've, shown that school choice works. They've had it for over a couple decades now. They've improved their public school system. It's competition's a rising tide that lifts all boats. But in 2018, DeSantis barely won his gubernatorial race when he first became governor by less than a point. And the Wall Street Journal the next day put on a headline, which was, quote, "School choice moms tipped the governor's race for DeSantis." They found that CNN exit polling, of all places, found that Black moms in particular came out in force for DeSantis. Why? Because his opponent, who happened to be a Black guy named Andrew Gillum, the Democrat, he came out against their school choice program that was disproportionately benefiting non-white kids and low-income kids. So those parents who might have disagreed with DeSantis on everything else, these Black moms said, you know what? I want my kids to get a better education than the failure factory that I was assigned to.
Okay, let's talk about how this did in the state of Texas. The vote happened back in April originally, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. This won by more than 20 points. This was a popular vote. I think only 2 Republicans voted against it.
Dade Phelan he never voted on it when he was speaker. Good thing he is not speaker, because a lot of people behind the scenes kind of understood that he was blocking things all along, killing things behind closed doors, and stacking committees of people who didn't support school choice. And now when it came to the time for him to actually vote, he was one of only 2 Republicans. The other one was Gary Van Dever. And Van Dever, I believe, at one point was a taxpayer-funded lobbyist, which is probably why he opposed the bill to ban taxpayer-funded lobbying. But yeah, he was the only guy who survived his primary on the issue of school choice out of the 7 who ended up still voting against. But, look, we're not 100% of the way there. You don't have to be, because we had enough votes this time, and the winds are shifting in our favor, and I think that's a sign of good things to come, that hopefully this will become a less partisan issue going forward, because I believe the more Republicans win on the issue, the more damaging it is to Democrats. I mean, look at Kamala Harris. She didn't say much about education, and internal polling, I bet, showed, because I saw with Atlas Intel polling nationwide, Donald Trump won not just the parent vote by 9 points. We found that from the exit polls. But before Election Day, it was showing that Trump was winning on the issue of education, which never happens for Republicans. Usually the Democrats nationwide they've led on the issue of education by double digits for decades.
Yeah, for decades, yeah.
So for this to shift to the right in such a seismic wave, it should be an alarm bell for Democrats. And in fact, there was a group called Democrats for Education Reform. They've been pretty good on charters for a while. For the first time, a couple months ago, they just came out public endorsing private school choice too. So
interesting.
A sign of things to come. Unfortunately, politicians listen more to power dynamics than logic, and this is why you have so many blue states that don't have school choice. They're trying to protect the monopoly. They're protecting people at the teachers' unions who benefit from trapping low-income kids in their schools, and they don't have to listen to the parents. They fear the teachers' unions more than anybody else. But the Republicans, like Glenn Youngkin in Virginia, beat Terry McAuliffe on the issue of parental rights and education in a deep blue state that apparently went 10 points to Biden in 2020.
Right.
That's a warning sign to Democrats. You better come along or you're going to be held accountable too.
Glenn Youngkin in 2021 winning the gubernatorial race on education was not something most people expected.
Right.
And it had a lot to do with school choice. It had a lot to do with the trans stuff. Obviously, that was all a big part of it. That was a shock to people. Now, as we move forward here, I think part of the reason why the school choice stuff didn't pass in Texas a couple of years ago, but it did this year, I think it's possible, Corey, a lot of people didn't understand what it was. Yeah. They're just confused about it. So before Glenn Youngkin was elected governor of Virginia, did most people know what school choice was? I doubt it.
Yeah, I don't think so.
And I wonder I don't know what to take from this thing that just happened in New York City. Zorhan...
It's a primary, so maybe Mary Adams still wins as an independent in the
general
election.
It's possible Cuomo does better in a general. Who knows? I don't know. It's a hard thing.
Who knows? But I think Cuomo might drop out and endorse Adams is the last that I've heard. But I think it has a lot to do with the far left indoctrination in our school system. If they're growing up in these government schools for 13 years of their lives, for 7 hours a day, they're going to turn out and vote for progressive policies because they've been brainwashed to think that daddy government is the solution to all of our problems. And so that is this is a huge issue. It's the root of all of our problems. Even if you don't care about education policy, let's say you care about our taxes or this, that, or the other, crime going up, it's all linked to the school system at the end of the day, because they're basically able to raise other people's children without having kids of their own, and they're able to infiltrate the schools and control and shape the direction of this country. That's why I'm so happy in red states, at least, they're behaving like the laboratories of democracy that the founders intended.
Sure.
Even if New York City is going to crap, Chicago is going the same way. At some point, they're gonna have to pay the price for doing the wrong thing.
I find what's so odd about this mayoral race is that a lot of the people supporting him are young people in their 20s who are really fired up about Israel. They're anti-Zionist, which has nothing to do with what's going on in New York City government. But the internet's filled with videos of young leftist activists telling you, well, this guy's against Israel, like as if New York City's going to invade Israel. Doesn't make any sense.
Crazy.
But of all of his policies, and this does kind of relate to what you're talking about with school choice, of all of his policies, one of the things this guy supports is government-run grocery stores.
Oh.
Now, when I walk in a post office, when I walk into the DMV, one of the things I think is, wow, I've never once thought, boy, I wish these guys were in charge of the Trader Joe's. I wish the Whole Foods was operated as well as this DMV office, is a thing nobody's ever said before, Corey.
I mean, it's almost beyond parody. I've used this argument for a long time as to why we need school choice. I argue that people wouldn't like to be assigned to government-run grocery stores that gives you food poisoning, and then when you complain, they say, too bad, go to the grocery board, and oh, by the way, triple our funding, and maybe we'll do a better job next time. That never works. That's a monopoly situation. They have no incentive to listen to you. The DMV has employees who just have basically these power trips where it's their little fiefdoms, their little levels of control where they can not have to listen to you and to basically have you bend to their every whim. And the school system behaves the same way. When families were upset about critical race theory, what happened? They went to the school board meeting like they were told to do. And they said, oh, the unions always told us that that's the democratic accountability, right? It didn't actually work out that way. It didn't work out as intended. They were labeled as domestic terrorists, and parents were pissed. So they said, you know what? If you're going to label me as an enemy, I'm going to take my money somewhere else, and I'm going to fight for school choice. So they overplayed their hand and awakened a sleeping giant, which happens to be parents who want more of a say in their kids' education.
Corey, we got a break, but when we get back, I want to talk about what just happened with the Chicago Teachers Union president. She used some very colorful language. And Randy Weingarten, you have some powerful enemies that are in the news this week. We're going to play some clips and get your reaction. Hang out for 1 second.
Kenny Webster's Pursuit of Happiness, where we certainly realize we're a heart attack away from President Kamala.
We are actually not a heart attack away from President Kamala. It's probably time to take that liner out of the rotation. But real quick, if you guys are watching this and you are in the Fort Worth area, let me fix this video real quick. There we go. Okay, there we are. Friday and Saturday night, me and Jesse Payton, we've been doing 2 comedy tours all summer long. One of them is The Right Side of Comedy with Chad Prather, Jesse Payton, and I. And that is not what this is. This weekend, we're doing couples therapy. It is not going to be political. It is a couples-themed, relationship-themed comedy show. Friday and Saturday night at Big Laugh Comedy Club in the Panther Room. Tickets are available right now for that. That will probably sell out. Obviously, the late show is a little spicier than the earlier show. If you are in the Dallas-Fort Worth area this weekend, come hang out with me and Jesse. It is going to be a lot of fun. Watch 2 middle-aged men who are divorced give you advice on your marriage. What could possibly go wrong? Tickets are available for that right now. If you are watching us streaming on social media, which you are, hang around. We're going to keep this going for you guys right now. But obviously, if you're looking for tickets for that, you can find them at jesseisfunny.com. You can also get a link at the top of my X account, so hit that up if you guys want to go. All right, today is National Chocolate Pudding Day. Insert Amber Heard joke here. That's not funny. Don't do that. I remember the good old days when Bill Cosby would offer you chocolate pudding and you probably weren't afraid to eat it. Times have really changed, haven't they? Okay, so like I was just saying to the people watching our stream, we are doing a comedy show this weekend. But this is regular daytime radio. We're talking about things going on in Texas state politics. And sometimes what happens in other cities and states affects what happens to us right here in Houston, Texas. And I can't think of a better example of that than this. Here is Corey DeAngelis is here right now. He is the leading school choice advocate in the country. We're looking at a video on the screen here in the studio of the president of the teachers union in Chicago. Now, I remember several years ago, it was a different woman in charge. It was actually the previous woman, I forget her name. She actually kind of looked like Randy Weingarten. She was a big white lady. And we learned at the time she was making upwards of $250,000 a year, which, for the record, I have no problem with people getting paid a lot of money. I'm a capitalist. I love America. But it's weird to hear a union leader for public government-funded employees making that much money, which was a little wild. But now that woman's gone, and we have this new woman. Who is this, and what is this clip, Corey?
This is Stacey Davis Gates, the president of the Chicago Teachers Union. She basically lets a mask slip here and says that we think we own your kids. No, I'm not kidding. This is not hyperbole. You'll hear the clip yourself. And I'm not taking anything out of context. They have so much hubris. She's actually a vice president at Randy Weingarten's union too, the American Federation of Teachers. And guess what? She called school choice racist a few years ago. And then guess what we found out right after that? She sends her own kid to a private school. I don't know if she's projecting, admitting that she's racist herself, or maybe she's just trying to protect her monopoly, looking out for her own interests, and fighting against everybody else's.
What is it that she said specifically was racist? The idea that people's tax money should be used towards educating their kids how they want, or the private school itself?
I have no idea. But look, I mean, her same union during COVID, they tweeted out that, quote, "The push to reopen schools is rooted in sexism, racism, and misogyny." So, Kenny, it doesn't have anything to do with logic. It's basically, this is my hammer, and I'm going to use it as a tool to any policy that I dislike. Well, they didn't want to go back to work during COVID, so they called it racist. They don't want people to take their money to non-unionized schools, so it must be racist. If you disagree with me, you're racist. So that I'm thankful that in 2025, this line of argumentation is more of a red flag than anything else. It's not proving anything.
All right, let's play the clip. Hang on one second here.
Baldwin says the children are always ours.
Always. Yes. Always.
Every single one of them, all over the globe. And what comes next is, CT, you think your children are its children. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We do. CTU thinks all children belong to it, and there's socialist conspiracy ideology. Well, I don't know about all that, but we like children.
All right, pause it right here. Okay. So I always find this a little odd, Corey. In one hand, they'll tell you they want the socialist mayor for New York City, and then in another hand, they'll tell you, no, we're not socialist. We elect socialists, we hang out with socialists, but we're not socialists. This is socialism. That's what they are.
That's exactly it. They think they own your kids. And if you realize when she's saying this, she actually doesn't say, no, we're not socialists. She says, I don't know about all of that, because she knows it's probably politically detrimental for her being so. But basically she says, people tell us that, that we think that we own their kids. And she just pauses and says, yeah, we do, actually. It's like, oh, okay. I mean, they've been so insulated from competition for so long. They killed the school choice program in Chicago a couple of years ago that was benefiting about 10,000 low-income kids, mostly non-white kids. And, they spend $30,000 a kid in their government schools there. And that private school where she sends her own child, well, it's half that amount. It's only $15,000 a year.
The thing that liberals say when they're criticizing the school choice policies that you promote is it's always the same thing. It's like this benefits the rich, and it obviously doesn't. Rich people don't need school choice. They can afford school.
They already have it.
They already have it. They don't care. And then they'll tell you that this is a way to give more money to the churches. You're giving public funds are going to and it's not really true. It's going towards the classrooms.
It goes towards the parents, and you can choose public schools if you want. If you like your public school, you can keep it.
Sure, you could still do that, right? And the school choice bill in Texas didn't actually take any money away from public schools, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. It's out of a separate line item appropriation. It's not out of the education budget. And even if it was, I mean, the government schools here, they got $8 billion additional through the legislature this year. That puts their total at about $100 billion. You divide that by the number of students, it's about $20,000 per student per year. That's 60% higher than average private school tuition in Texas. And guess what? The average scholarship amount that follows the student, if you want to go somewhere else, by the way, it's all voluntary. It's your choice.
Right.
And if the public schools are great, fine. But if not, you should be able to go somewhere else. It's only about half that amount. It's about $10,000. So if you're losing your customers and they're only able to take half of the money, that is a real sign of the failures of the status quo. It's a great advertisement for school choice.
The thing that conservatives say, when I rarely find conservatives, they do exist, who don't like school choice. I did a poll this week about it, was that they're concerned that the school choice bill is going to get the government too involved in what happens in the homeschooling programs. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. What is your response to it?
Their argument is that with government shekels comes government shackles, but you can get the shackles without the shekels. The government can already regulate private and home education today. And if you look in places like where Stacey Davis Gates is from in Illinois, they killed school choice a couple years ago. Now they're coming after the homeschoolers. They passed out a committee on a party line vote. All the Democrats, despite 40,000 homeschool families and people in general in Illinois signing up against the bill, all the Democrats still voted to pass the bill. So look, eternal vigilance is the price of liberty. We got to fight back whenever authoritarians come after our freedoms. But guess what? You're more likely to win that battle if you have people on your side. Politics is all about organized interest fighting for what they want. I mean, the unions have been doing this forever. But when you have school choice, you get more people benefiting from private and home education. They're more likely to lose when they come after your freedoms if you have a bigger tent, a broader coalition to fight back. And I mean, New Jersey came after homeschooling this year. They don't have school choice. Californians are currently, the Democrats in the legislature are coming after homeschooling with a regulation bill this year. They don't have school choice. On the flip side, Missouri, as they've expanded school choice, they deregulated homeschooling. Same thing with Ohio. Same thing with other red states as well. So legislators can walk and chew gum at the same time. At the end of the day, this is all voluntary. Families can weigh those costs and benefits themselves. And at the end of the day, also, if you're on Randy Weingarten's side and Kamala Harris's side, and you're not on Milton Friedman's side and Donald Trump's side, you're probably on the wrong side of history if you're trying to fight for education freedom.
Can we talk about this clip real quick? Randy Weingarten at a No Kings rally, I guess it was a little over a week ago.
Yeah.
This is the president of the American Federation of Teachers. By the way, how crazy is it that this woman just stepped down as a leader of the DNC? Nobody knew the whole time that the lockdowns and the pandemic was happening, that this woman was in a chair position at the DNC?
It's insane. For over 23 years. She also had a position on their influential rules committee since 2009. And nobody knew about this. The New York Times just reported that she left the DNC. And it's like, nothing to see here. But everybody was like, well, wait. She had a position at the DNC. Nobody knew about this. We all knew that her union gave all of their political contributions to Democrats every year. It's a money laundering operation. But we didn't know she was sitting at the table of that organization as well. It's insane.
It's kind of like the Hunter Biden laptop thing. If we had known about this during the 2020 election, and I'm not even going to get into, the Chinese government meddling in polling locations or whatever the DOJ is investigating now. If we had known that the Hunter Biden laptop was totally real, and we had known the woman going around the country closing the schools was a high-ranking member of the Democrat Party, how would that have affected the 2020 election? Knowing what happened a year later with Glenn Youngkin, I got to think it would have had an effect on things.
Yes, it would have hurt them tremendously. You had the DNC even running ads against Trump because he tried to reopen the schools. If you play them today, it's actually an endorsement ad. It should count as an in-kind contribution to Donald Trump in his 2024 race. He ended up winning all the swing states. He won on the issue of education, won with the parents. But yeah, I mean, they kept this a secret, and so did the media. You'd got to know that the New York Times must have known about this, but they always quoted her as being the person who represents the teachers. They wanted to put her in a positive light. They didn't want to expose her deep connections. It's an incestuous relationship between the unions and the Democrat Party. The media is also, in large part, an arm of the Democrats. So thankfully, their house of cards has come finally coming tumbling down.
All right, we only got a couple minutes left here. Can you set up this clip? What is this?
This is Randy Weingarten at a No Kings protest, which is they call for a nationwide day of defiance. She was in Philadelphia. It's free advertising for homeschooling because do you want this lunatic raising your kids? She's jumping up and down, looks like she's on a trampoline, and she's just so political. They're just trying to wreak chaos in the streets. She has Trump derangement syndrome, and this person should be nowhere near your children.
You are the community to this president's chaos. And together, we build a future of opportunity and justice for all. Hope over fear, aspiration over anger, the promise of America for each and every American. That is what we are fighting for today.
This had to do with Los Angeles and this nationwide day of defiance. I mean, why would the teachers unions care about immigration enforcement? Why would they be on the side of the protesters? Well, public schools are funded based on enrollment. Whether you're that kid there in the school is here legally or not, they get more money. So they are in favor of illegal immigration. And it goes even further than that, Kenny. They get more money per student if that child is not an English-speaking student because they have to hire more people that are specialists in these areas, which benefits people like Randy Weingarten who make over $500,000 a year. And it's all about their bottom line. And they also just want to prop up the party that they're a part of, the Democrats.
This is actually the second time this week I've had a guest in studio to talk about school choice. Earlier this week, it was somebody that was not in favor of it. Usually liberal Democrats do not take the invitation. I ask them all the time. Most of the people that do this show, politicians, stand-up comedians, and journalists. That's most of the people that are on it. For the years this show's been on the air, almost 10 years here in Houston, that's most of my guests. Once in a while, an activist like you, very rarely a liberal Democrat. This week, somebody took the invite. It was this woman, Sarah McGee. Sarah McGee is, hang on, let me pull up a picture over here. She is running in House District 132. A Republican won it last time by 20 points, about the time before that as well, and pretty much always a Republican-occupied seat. Mm-hmm. Does this woman hate you, Corey?
Yeah.
She really does not like you. I shared a video from your page earlier, and you already know what she probably said in response. The same thing. You were a victim of cancel culture last year because of things you did when you were a young man. Now, I'm not a social conservative. I'm not here to lecture you on that or anything, but more than once this has come up, and I'll let you explain it in your own words if you want, but essentially people attack you because of stuff you did that wasn't necessarily illegal.
They have nothing less, and guess what? Cancellation requires consent, and I do not consent. This happened almost a year ago. As far as it coming to the surface, but when they can't beat you on the logic of your arguments, they come after the person, and when you're catching flack, you're over the target, and we won this war. The bill has been passed in Texas. We're going to expand it as soon as possible, and the volume has turned down. The defenders of the status quo had it turned up to 11, but Sarah's upset, too, because she got ratioed this week on X, where she tried to pull a gotcha on the bill that Mitch Little passed to prohibit or to abolish immunity for public schools and their employees in sex abuse cases. And guess what she said? She said, well, too bad this doesn't apply to private schools. Aha. She thought she was pulling a fast one. But Mitch Little on the floor made another Democrat, basically it was a mic drop moment. You have the clip where he basically says, well, they're not immune because they weren't immune to begin with. So of course they're not included in the bill. The public schools were the ones that had special privileges, and that's what this bill addressed. They should have never had immunity to begin with, like the private schools.
This is a poorly edited clip, I think, from the Gutfeld show that somebody took of their TV, but hang on, I'm going to play it anyway.
Mr. Little, may I ask why this bill doesn't extend to private schools that receive voucher money?
Because they're not immune from suit. In fact, I've sued some of them.
Someone in the background says, got him, or something like that.
You got to admit, that is pretty funny. Corey, what are you doing in town? What are you in Houston today for?
I'm talking at an event with the American Institute for Economic Research to talk about the recent school choice bill that passed in Texas and talk about the nationwide momentum and a little bit about my book, The Parent Revolution, Rescuing Your Kids from the Radicals Ruining Our Schools, which kind of predicted this bill passing in Texas. And a lot of the things that I predict in that book are happening right now. But I dedicated this book to Randy Weingart and the teachers unions. Why? Because they overplayed their hand and they've inadvertently done more to advance school choice and homeschooling than anyone could have ever imagined.
And if people want to learn more about your work, where can they
You can
go?
follow me on X. It's at DeAngelis Corey. I'm a senior fellow at the American Culture Project.
I'm Kenny Webster. Thanks so much for watching and listening. Tomorrow night, me and Jesse Payton will be in Fort Worth in the Panther Room at Big Laugh Comedy Club, coming out with us Friday and Saturday night. 4 shows. It's a couples-themed comedy show. You don't have to be married or in a relationship. We're not married. We're, believe it or not, Jesse and I are not in a relationship, but we will be hanging out, taking pictures, having drinks with you guys. To the rest of you, have a great afternoon. Drive safe out there. We'll be back bright and early tomorrow morning for more of what you bought a radio for.
You are listening to the Pursuit of Happiness Radio. Tell the government to kiss your ass when you